So what's up guys, Ghost here, and boy oh boy do I have some crazy news for you guys today. Call of Duty 2020 is already pretty much announced before Modern Warfare 4 has even been officially announced. Isn't that crazy? Black Ops 5 is essentially going to be the next Call of Duty game after Modern Warfare 4. After this year's Call of Duty comes out in this November, the next COD after that in 2020 is going to be Black Ops 5 by, you guessed it, Treyarch. And this is all so surprising to me. I'll link down below in the description the many articles where lots of people are getting this from and talking about this from. It all came out today from Twitter, from Kotaku, as well as Trolley Intel. You guys all need to go read it for yourself as well with watch this video, because I'm just beyond mind blown right now, and it just all makes sense on why Black Ops 4 is in the state that it's in right now and why it did not live up to expectations as we wanted to. And it's all because of this. It's all because of like all the studios just having this type of like, you know, heated argument, or just like this thing they have with each other because of the next Call of Duty in 2020. So basically, here's what happened. Raven Software was actually going to be the lead development studio for COD 2020, with Sledgehammer Games supporting them. So Raven Studio is obviously the ones who remastered Modern Warfare, obviously COD 4, and they're the ones that work on the DLC with, like, you know, the older CODs like MW3 and BO2 and all that stuff. Raven Software has been working with COD for over, like, you know, a decade now and whatnot. And they were actually the main development studio for the next COD in 2020. Surprisingly enough, it wasn't Sledgehammer. That's crazy right there, because Sledgehammer Games was the backbone, the support for the next COD in 2020. They weren't the main development studio as they were for World War II, as well with Advanced Warfare. They were on the side working with that COD, just like how they worked on Modern Warfare 3. If you guys didn't know that, Sledgehammer Games worked alongside with Infinity Ward to make MW3 because of the falling out Infinity Ward had with Activision back in 2009, where they lost a bunch of developers. And the same thing is happening now. Sledgehammer Games is losing lots of their developers, and some of them are even considering going to work for Michael Conju's brand new studio that he started up. And that's why Sledgehammer Games is like really in trouble, because they are low staffed, just like how Infinity Ward was back then in 2009, 2010, with the falling out with Vince Zampella and Jason West. Pretty much the same thing is happening, but with Sledgehammer 10 years later, which is crazy as hell. So with all that in mind right there, Activision basically informed all the developers that Raven and Sledgehammer would no longer be the main studio working on the next COD in 2020. Instead, it'll be Treyarch who will be the lead studio with a new Black Ops next year. Yeah! The COD that Sledgehammer Games and Raven Software was making was originally going to be set during the Cold War, and what they already made will be used for what Treyarch's going to be working on for the campaign of Black Ops 5. So instead of the 3 years that it usually takes to make them a COD, now it's cut down to just 2 years, forcing the developers to work overtime to make this release happen for 2020. One of the main reasons why the next COD after MW4 turned out to be like this is because there's a heavy tension between the Sledgehammer and Raven, whose staff are said to have argued frequently during the past year of the development of COD 2020. Two people that are familiar with this project described it as, and I quote here, a mess. They literally described the next COD in 2020 a mess. Quite literally. That right there just mind boggles me. They apparently made something so bad to the point where it was called a mess, and the developers were not happy with it, and they just kept it going back and forth with it. And I don't know what goes on behind the scenes with the development of any video game, but that seems very bad right there. So now both studios, Raven Software and Sledgehammer Games, will now help Treyarch as they prepare to make Black Ops 5. So that means that after Infinity Ward works and they release Modern Warfare 4 this year, this November, then the next COD after that in 2020 will be worked on by all those 3 studios. Raven Software, Sledgehammer Games, and Treyarch are all working on Black Ops 5 right now as we speak. It's no longer just Raven and Sledgehammer Games working on one single COD. It's now going to be Treyarch, Sledgehammer, and Raven. And right there is pretty bad and good at the same time. And the reason why I'm saying it's kind of bad is because you do realize with Treyarch now being the main studio for the next COD in 2020, that means they're going to have less support for Black Ops 4. That means that Black Ops 4 is even going to be in a worse state than it already is right now. And the lack of support that the multiplayer is having is going to be far worse probably. I don't know how many developers or how many workers they have there working at each studio, but I just see that as a huge mess, and that's gonna be difficult to manage. You know, a COD that's already out, Black Ops 4, and then developing a brand new COD for 2020. It's like they have so much things to do right there. I have no idea how they're all gonna do it, but I think they could possibly pull it off because the Call of Duty games that we all loved, like for example Black Ops 2, Modern Warfare 2, Modern Warfare 3, all those Call of Duty games were made in 2 years. They were made in that 2-year development cycle. And ever since Sledgehammer Games joined with Advanced Warfare, it turned into a 3-year development studio cycle where it was Infinity Ward, and then Sledgehammer, and then Treyarch. And then it just, you know, reset basically to those 3 studios. But now, a Treyarch game is going to be coming out right after an Infinity Ward COD this year. Just like the old days, how it went from, say, Modern Warfare 2 to Black Ops 1 to Modern Warfare 3 to Black Ops 2 to Call of Duty Ghosts. It was Infinity Ward, Treyarch, Infinity Ward, Treyarch. And now that same thing is happening again this year. But this time around, we have 3 development studios working on one Call of Duty, which I can see kind of good in that because, right, don't you think that? Because the more development studios, the more people that help out with the COD, won't it mean the better it'll be? Sometimes it can mean that, but not necessarily. But I'm gonna be striving for high hopes here. The more people working on COD 2020, the more studios, like, they have different ideas at each studio. They have different ideas and different, like, mindsets of what they want the next COD to be after MW4. You have Treyarch's perspective of what they want with the game. You have Sledgehammer's perspective with what they want to develop for a Call of Duty. And then obviously you have Raven Software's perspective with a Call of Duty as well. So all that's going to be combined into just that one huge foundation, that one huge COD in 2020. And I'm super curious on how that'll actually turn out to be, because there's going to be many components of all those 3 studios into one single COD next year in 2020. That's going to be interesting as hell. And I don't know, that's going to basically cause a lot more tension on Black Ops 4 with its multiplayer and its blackout, even more than it already is. If you are one of those people just like me that's not enjoying Black Ops 4 that much, and it's like pretty boring because of the lack of, you know, content and the lack of like replayability for the multiplayer, then it might get worse from here. Sadly, I hope it doesn't. But with MW4 coming out nearly like in, you know, 6 months from now, I don't really have to worry about that all that much. But still, that is just something crazy to think about right there, man. So much stress, so much tension is going on between all the developers right now and behind the scenes and whatnot. Kotaku, obviously a reliable gaming website news source, they also mentioned that they will have more articles in the coming weeks about what happened at Treyarch during Black Ops 4's development right there. And that should be interesting to hear what was happening during the development of Black Ops 4. That is going to be very, very interesting to hear, because I'm curious on what happened and why Black Ops 4 turned out to be just like this. And they also stated that this year's COD from Infinity Ward, MW4, may have a free-to-play component involved with it, but all of it is not finalized yet. So something might, hypothetically, be free to play with this year's COD. And my first idea with that was maybe a Modern Warfare 2 multiplayer for free they might release. But then I'm thinking, well, with all this tension going on with all the studios and whatnot, I kind of doubt that'll happen, because you have Infinity Ward working on Modern Warfare 4 on their own right now. Nobody is really helping them, because you have the other 3 studios working on the next COD in 2020, and then you also have Treyarch, who is working on their COD right now, Black Ops 4. So, do they really have time for remasters? Honestly, do they have time for that? I don't know if they even have that, or like the amount of developers necessary for that. That is crazy to think about, man. I just genuinely think they should just start remastering Call of Duties instead of making new ones. But I don't know. We'll see what happens in the future, man. It's all came out today, but make sure you guys check out in the description the links to the articles, and let me know thoughts down below about this. I'm curious about it all, and I'm optimistic about it pretty much. We'll see what happens in the future. I'm not too worried about it now, because I'm more worried about Infinity Ward and Modern Warfare 4 this November, obviously. So, yeah, thanks for watching, guys. I appreciate it. I'll see you on the next one. Peace out.